Hey, Bob.
Good afternoon.
How you doing?
I'm well, barely awake.
Barely awake?
It was a short night last night.
Oh, okay. Okay. We got Elon, Veronica, John's here. Okay.
All the important people.
All the important
Yep.
people? That's right. All the important people. That's right. Whoever's here, you know, you're important. Okay. I want to do, kind of wanted Gene to be here because I was going to, well, I'm going to just go ahead and start. We'll go back if we need to. I'll just remind me not to close these files, okay? when I click out of them, okay? I have a bad habit of doing that. Okay, can everybody see that? Should be a like a color wheel with a grayscale.
Yeah.
And then there's a little gray square down here in the corner, right?
Yep.
And basically what that is that's a little tool I put together and I sent out to you guys sometime last year. I'll be happy to send it again. But if you go print this, I would go, if I were going to do this, I would get like, you know, 3 prints of this. They'll cost you all of about, I think at Kinko's right now, they'll cost you like 98 cents, you know, per print maybe. And then out of one of them, I would cut this bottom corner and then I would trim off one of the grayscales, either the cool or the warm, or you could just trim this out as one whole piece and keep it as a L-shaped bracket. And then another, you know, keep this on hand just as a color reference so you can look at your complements and direct complements from each other. Everybody know how that works on a color wheel? Any color that is directly across the color wheel is what we call a direct complement, okay? And so, you know, basically the idea is if you put any 2 complementary colors together, they basically neutralize each other, you know, and you'll end up getting a gray, okay, in the end result of some sort. Could be dark, could be light, but a gray at some point, you know, when you get the balance right. Now, the thing about having a color wheel around though is that oftentimes, you know, you don't do paintings that are just using direct complements. Oftentimes what happens is you might pick like a set of direct complements, let's say orange and blue, right? And let's say we're doing a seascape and it's a sunset. Well, you know, you're going to have a lot of orange in there, but you're also going to have a lot of blue, right? But you might need to vary your color out just a little bit more, right? So this gives you the option of, you could take any of the colors just to the side, you know, of your complementary colors and use them. And then you have what we call a analogous color system, okay? So you're basically using all of the colors right in this section of the color wheel to create your painting. And a lot of artists have used that to create what we call color harmonies in their paintings. And it's, you know, I've done a few like that, use different color systems. And they're very effective. You know, they can actually work together very well. So it just kind of opens up a door, you know, for you to, you know, get more impact and, you know, use color in a little more organized way. And so again, you know, using a color wheel to rely on every once in a while is not a bad idea, you know, to go back and actually look at it and kind of see, okay, So, what colors would sort of harmonize, um, in this painting that I'm, getting ready to do or working on. Okay. So again, this can be a very useful tool, and I would encourage you to use it. And okay, now I won't close this. Reminding myself, just in case Gene shows up or somebody, and we get back into this conversation again. But again, it's a useful tool, and it's good to have just in the studio for you to refer to and take a look at from time to time. Okay. Here's another little tool that I put together. And again, this can be, pretty useful, when you start talking about color and value. Okay. So what I've done is I've taken all of the primary and secondary colors, and I've broken them down into a value scale, from basically black, or a number 10 value all the way down through, white. And so this gives you some idea as to, what those values look like as they change, through, a system. Now I'm looking at this, and, I'm seeing, small steps in here, but I think the steps could be actually bigger, in the yellow. The gray feels pretty good. And this was done digitally. So it's, when it says a 10% gray, you're getting 10% gray. I'm not getting enough change in here for me, but anyhow, but it still gives you an idea. Yeah, really here in the yellow seem to be kind of, a lot of these values seem to be getting, kind of falling together for me. And there's not enough contrast. But again, this kind of gives you a general guide, as to how, as you begin to darken a color or whatever, what might happen with that as you do it. And so maybe I'm going to go back and tweak this a little bit and get more contrast in these before I send that out to you. So
you are going to send it out so it'll be printable, correct?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Right.
That would be the big idea. So
Okay.
yeah, you can actually, it would come as a JPEG file.
Okay.
Well, that's what these are. Now, originally they were PDF files. You could print it off of a PDF as well. Either one are printable. Okay.
Okay. Great.
Yeah. And there you are. See, you're here. Yay! I didn't want to get too far into this because, you and I were specifically talking about this. So, anyway, let's jump in, take a look at some of the work, and then in a couple of the paintings that I'm going to, basically that you guys were doing, I'm going to make a couple suggestions, and that is that you think more about your paint surface and how you build and layer paint. And I've got a short video, and it's Phil Stark was the artist who did the video, but he's talking about different artists over time and how they use what is referred to as broken color passages. Okay. And so we're going to watch that here toward the end, and we'll talk more about it. But let's jump in and, start talking about the work that we've got here. If I can find it. Okay. Okay, I don't see it up there. I see the two videos. Okay. Well, maybe I will have to close some of these just to get me where I need to go. Where? I had it out. No, I don't. Okay, well, that's frustrating. Okay, here. Back to the drawing board. Let me open that back up again. See, this is a problem with, working on a computer screen. You don't have enough real estate to really get around here. Okay. So, yeah, well, okay. Ah, okay. I know what happened. All right. That was not the smartest thing I did. All right. There we go. We got it. Right. There we go. There you guys are. All right, let's try this again. See if we can share it. Yay! See it. All right. So I threw this in here too, and we had done this toward the end of last year. There were some questions about mixing flesh tones, right? And so I basically broke down, how to, let's actually flip this over because it's kind of the way it really goes. Where you're using the colors on the palette and basically combining, this is like a green mixture, kind of close to a sap green, but it's actually mixed out of the Viridian. So it's a little bit of Viridian yellow. And then combining it with a cooler red. In this case, it's the permanent rose madder, or permanent rose that we used over at Benson. A violet, okay, Dachshund violet and the green, and then the green and a cadmium red, right? And you get these brownish sort of mixtures out of the warmer one. Again, this is a little bit cooler, and again, a little bit cooler. And then you start mixing with that to make it lighter. You start adding this base of cadmium orange and Naples yellow, and you begin to get all of these, really nice range of flesh tones that you can accomplish with that. And so again, that's another thing I'll send out to you. This is basically the same idea, probably explained a little bit better. Just as a color chart off of the palette that we were using, warm side, cool side. Okay. Now this is a drawing. This is by Avital Landman. Is she here? Avital, are you around?
Yes, I just clicked the unmute.
Okay, all right, good. Okay, so this is a drawing, and you had sent this in earlier, but you've gone a little further with it and developed it more. So, it looks a little more complete. And so where are you going to go from here?
Well, I need to accentuate around the nose better. Oh, I didn't send you the reference. I had the reference with the first version. And so the nose is accentuated better. And first, I didn't quite locate the eyebrows. I kind of, it seems that the eyebrows in the reference are very further up. And the forehead is also wider than what I drew. And the shape of the face is also quite kind of triangular, not so square. So I need to take care of all that. But I was concentrating on the nose, and the central area, and I didn't get any further than that.
Okay. Now this is colored pencil, right?
Yes, correct.
Yeah, and it's on a black or dark gray piece of paper, right?
Yes.
Okay. I see that you're beginning to, use a little bit of this white in here.
Yes.
And that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. You know, and you might be able to use some of that in combination with your yellows and things to heighten the value, you know,
Yeah.
along the areas that are kind of lit up in the nose a little bit more.
True.
Because right now the only places you've got it is right here along the bottom of the orbit of the eye.
Yes.
And if it's hitting here, then more than likely it would be hitting, you know, somewhere here along the plane of the nose,
Yes.
and the nostril and things. So, you know, start working that in there. Again, you know, and you're doing it in this area, and in most of the areas, you're being pretty faithful to following the actual plane and form of the surface of the face in the area that you're working in, and stay with that. Okay, you know, keep working. You know, make everything directional, and kind of move around, you know, the shape that you're trying to render. Okay, and don't break that up in any way. Because so far, I mean, all of this is working fairly well for you. It's just you need to keep layering color and, you know, I'm not looking at the original reference, so I don't really know. I can't really comment about the proportion things, you know, in this individual, but you know, so when you send this in later, you know, try to include the reference as well, so that we get them
I
both.
will do.
Okay, all right. And then you've got some cats that you. Now, is this your kitties around the house, or is this something? That you, okay, so you've got live models.
Live moving model.
Okay, yeah. Well, yeah, they tend to do that. You know, they'll settle for just a minute and they'll get up and move around. Okay. You know, that's the problem with working with anything from live.
Yeah.
It's you know, they tend to
Move.
you know, things happen. They shift about the time that you're getting something you're feeling pretty good about. That's about the time that they get up and walk off. So
That's the same thing with the 2-second or 5-second or whatever it is live model too. They get up and walk into a different pose.
Exactly.
yeah, same basic problem. You know, cats though, you know, I've lived with a cat before, and they can be somewhat sadistic about it. You know, they seem to know. It's just, oh, okay, yeah, he's just about getting ready to really get into this drawing. Time for me to go somewhere. So yeah, they got to change something. But this is usually the best mode to get them in, when they're laying down sleeping. You have the best chance of actually, you know, accomplishing something. Yeah. Okay. So these are your little life sketches of your. Now, do you have one cat, or are there different cats?
Just one.
Just the one. Okay.
An only child.
Yeah.
Spoiled only child.
Yeah. Well, yes, such is the nature of cats. I mean, you know, we think of them as our pets, but they actually look at us as being their pets. So,
Yeah.
I mean, you know, I don't know whether you've ever thought about this, but, you know, cats have a way of getting human beings to do for them what they won't do for any other human being. You know? You feed them, you clean their litter box, and, you know, I mean, come on now, really? So, yeah, they're interesting. It's an interesting relationship between cats and people. So, now this is Azam. Okay, sent this in. Azam, are you here? I don't see her. Going once, going twice. Nope.
It is the same thing. Same thing looks like.
Pardon?
It's like two paintings of the same thing.
Yeah, it's like a diptych. I think.
Oh,
Yeah, I think they kind of go together maybe. But they
okay.
do, yeah, they do kind of repeat each other, don't they?
With the birds, yeah.
Yeah, not exactly, but you know, I mean, they're pretty close.
Mhm.
All right. Well, she sent this in. I won't comment too much on it. So maybe she gets here. And then this is another one of her abstract paintings that she sent in. And she was talking about this last week, where she was taking the wax, the paraffin,
Oh, yeah.
and you know, she was kind of shaving it, and I think she heated it or melted it a little bit so that it stuck to the surface, and then she put this these layers of metallic paint over it, you know, to build a, pardon me, you know, build up the textures and things. So it makes a really interesting surface, you know, nice
Yeah.
surfaces on it. I don't know how permanent it is though, and how long the wax will like really stick there without cracking and peeling off. Now they do have waxes that you can buy for oil paint that you can actually put in your paint and make like really impasto type of paint layers. And you know, it's a little more sturdy, I think, than paraffin. But you know, if paraffin works, hey, why not? This is a drawing, and we saw this last week from Bob. Now, Bob,
Sir,
I have a question.
absolutely.
Okay, so now the light that's on her cheek and around her mouth and things, did you add that in, or is that from an actual, like the room?
That's from nature. I took her outside to take a picture,
Oh,
and there was streaks of light. I kind of like it.
yeah,
It adds a lot of interest to it. Really does.
it does. You know, you might actually, you know, now that you've got that to work from, you might go back in and actually lighten up, you know, that area of the lower part of the face a little
Right.
more and really kind of bring that out. I mean, it's an interesting lighting effect.
It is. It is.
So, okay. I was gonna say, you know, that worked out pretty well, but
Yeah, really. Blind. You know those happy little accidents Bob Ross used to talk about.
yeah. Now, if you could just get it to hang in the gallery that way. So,
Yes.
yeah, but in a way, I mean, it kind of opens up a lot of ideas with how you might play with the values and light it and make a more, you know, maybe a little more dramatic and interesting piece out of it.
Yes. I agree. I agree.
Yeah. So now you've worked a little bit on the lips here, and you're
Yep.
beginning to kind of round those out. And it looks like you've softened, you know, some of the edges out here a little bit.
That's
So,
correct. Also.
Yeah.
And I've given them a little more definition to the eye and under the eye, trying to lighten up a little bit that the lower eyelid.
Mhm.
So, and I've tried to enhance the tears a little bit as well, but you
Mhm.
can't tell with that other light striking it as much.
Right. Yeah. One thing I would mention about the tear, okay, with the skin surfaces, you know, you kind of rendered, you know, these changes in value, right? And
Mhm.
that kind of helps move the form either forward or backward. In the case of the tear, you know, you've come back in and you've kind of made a very distinct outline in a lot of these areas. And I would kind of encourage you to soften that back.
Okay.
Yeah, because it doesn't quite feel like a teardrop that's sitting on her face, right?
Okay.
And if you look at liquids, waters, or whatever on a surface, they do have a very distinct edge to them, but at the same time, that edge isn't necessarily dark, and in many cases, it might actually be light rather than dark. Okay.
Okay.
So just look at that real carefully You know, and or you know, put some water, a few drops of water or something on like some kind of surface, you know, and see how they beat up, and you know what kind of edge you do get there, whether you get this, you know, dark outline or whether you get a, you know, something a little bit lighter in value. Okay.
I did some water droplets, so it's a long time ago, but the angle that I was looking at the water drops was more almost a side view
Mhm.
than a straight on view. So straight on is got to be a lot different than that
Mhm.
than that other approach.
Yes, it would be, because the light's going to react very differently.
Right.
So yeah, just look at that real carefully. I mean, you know, they need to be there, but maybe not as, you know, strongly as you've got them stated. Okay. And I think it's just a matter of just adjusting the value back, you know,
Okay.
to where they're there, but they're, you know, they're not going to, you know, hit you in the face first thing. Okay. And then tell us about what's going on here with your music piece.
Well, I like music, and so this is very contemporary,
Mhm.
and it's going to. I've got a lot to add to it, but darn telephone anyway. Anyway, so basically, I've got an amplifier to add to it. I've got some speakers I'm going to put on it, and maybe a small rendition of maybe an album cover of some kind, someplace on here. But you know, I think those musical symbols will fade back in the background once I get the rest of the pieces in place. I hope that's the intent anyway.
Okay. Now, when you say you have an amplifier, things like that to add on, you're saying images of the
Images and amplifier. Yeah, basically, I'm going to go back to the old vacuum tube amplifier, and we'll light up the tubes with some yellows and some oranges in there, like the old vacuum tubes used to look like when they were lit up. And so then the speakers will be up in the upper right hand and upper left hand corners of it. And I'm gonna cover. I mean, this is 36 by 24. This piece is, and what I've got. Well, I've painted some frames that somebody gave me, and so what I'm and I one of them I painted in silver. It's very metallic silver. So what I'm going to wind up doing is covering the whole thing up and cutting some circles in there to give that silver, that shiny silver effect on the speakers. I'm going to try it anyway. And a lot of this is template oriented, so I'm cutting a lot of my own templates here to make this happen.
Okay. Now, I kind of see the arm of a turntable here, and then the platter, and then I'm assuming that since the needle is down on it, there's actually a record on there.
Correct.
Yeah. So I guess my question.
This is just a piece of acetate that I'm going to use as a template for my tone arm. Basically, it's just sticking to the surface right now. That's all.
Okay. All right. And so you're going to do this in an airbrush?
It's all going to, as much as I can do an airbrush, I'm going to do an airbrush. Yes.
Okay. All right. And I guess my question is, with the turntable itself, what's your plans for it? Are you going to airbrush difference in value to make it look round?
Yeah, I'm gonna lighten up the front of it like it's being lit up from the front of the picture here. But yeah, I'll lighten up the front there a little bit. And basically, my sight line is dead on to the top of the turntable, and everything else will be. I'm gonna work at doing some perspectives from the. There's a light little knob right in the middle where the record sets down on the little right there. And basically that's going to be my point of reference for the, yeah, for the perspective point of view. It's a single point of perspective from that point out
Okay,
from there.
so that's your vanishing point.
That's my, yes.
Okay. All right. I got you. All right. Okay. And then you have this piece, and it looks like you've done more work on it.
Yep.
You know, and now it's beginning to feel, you know, a little more dimensional. You finished out, you know, the wings. You were working on those.
Right.
Now, question. What's, you know, are you going to do more with the tail itself here to clarify it, or to?
Not really, because in my reference photo, it was just a kind of a blur, because you know, I'm sure that when this picture originally was taken, the bird was moving.
Yeah.
And so therefore the tail feathers were in flux. And so no, I don't think so. What I think I will do though is push the big trunk back away from the bird a little bit to make these tail feathers stick out a little bit more.
Yeah, I agree with that. Yeah, if you actually kind of lowered the intensity of all these colors back to around, you know, what you've got in this area,
Right.
then it would sit back. Because right now, because with the orange and yellows and the, you know, different kinds of red and red violets in there, they kind of compete, you know, with the intensity of the color in this area.
Right.
And so yeah, subduing that would help it a lot, I think. Okay.
Yep.
Kind of push it back. Well, here, I'll go ahead and show you this. We'll move on pretty quick. This is Saturday. I went to the Atlanta Artist Center, and we had a young model, young lady, and she sat. This was for the 3-hour painting session, and you know, some of you guys have been trying to paint figures and faces and things like that, and I think you can relate to the idea that you know, painting a figure isn't necessarily the fastest thing that you could do, and in fact, it's a bit challenging to get all of that down there in a very quick amount of time. Now, the fact is, you know, I actually had a screen painted behind her, but I wasn't really happy with it. So when I came home, I went ahead and just grayed it all out and neutralized it for right now. And then I'll come back in after all the paint's dry, and I'll put a little more accurate, you know, and cleaner treatment of that screen that was sitting behind her, that her you know, robe was hanging over. But you know, for 3 hours, I was fairly happy with this. You know, it went fairly quickly, and this is about a 16 by 20 in size. And so, you know, so it was a pretty good effort, you know, for a 3-hour period. I'm probably going to work on it some more, and there's a lot of little tweaks, you know, that I could do to it to make it feel, you know, anatomically a little bit better. You know, there's some things I like about it, things I don't like about it. So I've still got some work to do, you know, with it, but, you know, here we are at the 3-hour market. We'll see where it goes from here.
Since you're showing your pieces, which 3 pieces did you select to go to the show?
Oh, the African woman, it's called Water Bearer. The one that was called Moon Dance, which was the young woman in kind of like the negligee. And what was the third piece I put in there? Oh my God.
Did you use the one with the girl with the facing, her back
No.
was facing us?
No, I didn't. No, I didn't. Because I kind of thought about that. And, you know, it's a nice drawing, but looking at kind of just the backside of her, it kind of, I don't know. I guess my reaction is that it doesn't really draw you in, you know. And so I'm trying to think about what it. Oh, I know what I put the piece that I did as a study called "While the Gods Were Sleeping," and it's the couple that was they're kind of like laying. It's almost like they're laying on a bed, but they're actually in the clouds. So those are the 3 pieces I put in there. And I did that Sunday because that's when they opened it up. And that drawing show actually closes, I think it's like April 4th. People can submit work to it.
Not very long show.
Well, no. That's just the submission period.
Oh.
It started on the 28th. It ends on the 4th. The show won't be hung, whatever they pick for it, until I think the end of April or, probably early May, when things will actually go up on the wall. Okay. And it will be up for about a month. Okay. This is a painting that Eloise sent in. She sent 2 portraits in, and Eloise, are you around?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay. So tell us a little bit about this piece.
Well, you said you needed some more painting, some more pictures, so I just grabbed a couple that I had. So
Okay.
This is a friend's granddaughter,
Mm-hmm.
and I did it some time ago, and when I look back, it looked like she had no eyelashes on her right eye. But anyway, I guess I'll have to fix that. And I did take them outside and put them in ambient light, shaded light.
Yeah.
But they seem to have not come out so sharp. But anyway, this is a little girl.
Mm-hmm.
She was about 12 then, I think.
Okay. Well, the color saturation looks pretty good on it. And you're saying that it didn't come out so sharp, but then when I zoom in on it, you got the weave of the canvas and everything else in there. I don't know that you could get it much sharper. So,
Okay.
what do you think is the difference between the original piece and what we're looking at right now?
It looks much better taking it outside, putting it in as a light. It looks a lot better, I think. It's closer to the original color.
You mean this photograph of it, or you mean?
Yeah, this one, this photograph of the picture.
Oh, okay.
It looks about it. The colors are pretty accurate.
Yeah. And see, that's the
So
thing.
I'll use that.
Yeah. See, remember that spot, and go back, go back and set it up and photograph a lot of your paintings and stuff there, because finding good light, good even light, to take photography of your work and your drawings and things like that, it is really, that makes all the difference in the world. A lot of people try to, set up lighting in their studio to photograph the work. And the problem with that is, having multiple light sources, even if you measure everything out and set, 2 lights up at a 45-degree angle to the piece, and, they're equal distance, and your camera is centered and squared and everything else, it's an awful lot of work. And the end result of that, oftentimes, and particularly with oil paintings, depending on how dry they are, you may get a good photograph, you may not, because the surface, as the paint is wet, is more reflective and shiny. And so, there's parts of the painting that just kind of, blow out and in light like that. And doing it this way, and it doesn't really matter whether the paint is wet or dry. I've always had pretty good luck at, getting, like I said, really good color saturation. And something that's a little truer and more representative of the painting. So, so how long ago did you do this, you said?
I think about 4 or 5 years ago, I looked at her ear now. It looks like she has an alien ear. I guess I need to work on that a little bit.
Yeah, the anatomy of the ear doesn't quite feel quite right, you know.
Mm-hmm.
If you look at the structure of people's ears, and they're all different, you know, but we have a lot of things in common. Like, you know, there's you know, it's like the way that the ear, you know, it's a coil. It comes out and around in that area right there, and then sometimes you'll get another bridge. Sometimes you'll get a flat plane. Sometimes this plane, depending on, you know, how people's ears are structured, will either be concave or convex. You know, lots of different things can happen there. And usually here with the earlobe, there's a pretty distinct shape. You know, it will come down and then it will make a kind of a distinct shape in there, you know, toward the end. But yeah.
Yeah, I'll have to work on that.
Yeah, well, I mean, you know, you just go back and look at the reference, you know, check things out. You know, the anatomical part, you know, ears are one of those things, you want them there, but it's not the focal point. And that being said, if you were going to go back and do something to this, and I'm not
Mhm.
suggesting that you do, but if you wanted to, you might simplify that ear, you know,
Okay.
and take out
Mhm.
some of the detail because you don't really need it. And in fact, because of the sharper edges and things in that ear, it sort of draws your eye to it rather than, you know, to the focal point right here. So softening that a little bit and making it a little less distinct might be a good solution. Okay.
Or I could cover it with her hair.
You could do that. You know, though I like the shape and everything, I would just, you know, kind of soften, you know, soften some of the edges in there and not be so, you know, meticulous about all, you know, all of the stuff going on there. Remember too, it's, you know, it's on the shadow side of her face. And when I'm looking at it, it seems to overall be a little bit lighter in value. And again, you know,
Right.
putting the value down
Mhm.
on it just a little bit darker. So it kind of is more within the range of the value on that side of her face would probably help a little bit. Okay.
Okay. All right.
And then, you know, you were talking about the eyes here,
Mhm.
and
Mhm.
you got the eyelashes on this side. Uh, you could use maybe a little bit heavier, uh, you know, outline on the upper lid, like right in here. Just,
Okay.
yeah, give her a little more weight right in there so that it's a little more balanced, you know, between the two. Um, and yeah, I mean, yeah.
Okay, I will do that. I think I'll do it right away before I forget what you said.
But it's just, you know, it's just, yeah, it's like everything you do, you know, there's always more you can do to it.
Mhm.
And it's just like, yeah, when does it stop? But, you know, just a few little tweaks here or there. And I mean, it's a fairly finished, you know, painting. How big is this of her?
It's only, I think it's about 10 by 12. It's a small one.
Okay. Yeah. So it's like a little study. Um,
Mhm.
yeah. But yeah, just a couple of little adjustments to the values and things in there. And it could make
Okay.
a huge difference in the finished work. Okay.
All
Um,
right.
this is a really nice piece. And in fact, when I saw this and I saw June's, and you know, it got me to thinking we needed to watch a video on this thing called broken color passages or open paint passages. So we're going to get to that. But the thing I really like about this is the intensity of the color, you know, in the skin tones and in the top that she's wearing are really nice and help pull her forward. Um, you know, particularly the range of value in the skin tone, and everything feel, you know, pretty accurate. You know, really nice. There's a nice sense of light. You know, and none of the shadows are like really strong shadows, so it gives her a softness, that feels kind of appropriate for her. And, I think you handled that pretty well. About the only critical comment, on the figure that I would kind of mention is you see here at the top of her head, you've got this area lighter, and it indicates that the light is coming, hitting the top of her head, right? And you've put
Right.
you put a little less of it over here, but the problem is that the value between the top of her head and the value on the side of her head, and I'm just talking about these little light areas right here, doesn't change. And it
Okay.
should, all of this should be a little bit darker than the top of her head. Okay.
Okay, this lady is, I used to work until the pandemic with Habitat. And this is a lady who was awarded a home.
Okay.
And she was standing out in the sun, and the foliage in the back, now that did not come out well when I took the picture. It's clearer on the portrait I did.
Mhm.
And so since she's under trees or around trees, it might have been why I made that part lighter because of the sunlight. I'm not even sure. I don't even remember.
You're saying on the side of the head, or are you saying up here at the top?
Yeah, the side, the top might have been from sunlight
Mm-hmm.
because it is outside and she is around trees, and
Mhm.
I don't know, but anyway.
Yeah.
She looks like she's happy and she's looking at it.
Mhm.
Yeah, she was happy. She was getting a home.
She's looking at it too.
Uh-huh.
Well, and because of the way that you've got the light on the forehead, right in this area, it feels like the top of her head is lit up, and that's all fine. It's once you come over to the side plane, and it's these little light bits right in here,
Okay.
that they're just a little too light.
Okay.
And see,
All right.
kind of where the head transitions from the top plane onto the side, these need to get just a little bit darker in here.
Okay. So the top part is okay. I don't need to
Yeah.
darken it.
No, that's fine.
Okay.
No, it's right here. It's just on the side. See, 'cause
Okay.
the value, like right in here, is the same value that you've got up here.
Okay.
Can't happen. See?
So, okay. All right. So I need to darken those braids in the back, right?
Yeah, just
Right there. I need to darken it. Okay.
Yeah, just in this area on the side plane of her head. And now
Okay.
that doesn't mean that they need to go away. That just means that they need to get a little bit darker. Okay.
Okay.
So there's a value change from the top plane to the side plane.
Okay. All right.
All right. So
Thank you.
then this is John, and it's a nice little landscape, John. Your hills are sitting back there in the distance really nicely. Your trees are coming forward. I guess my question is, are you done with this? You're going to do more to it?
I wanted to do more to it. What I was trying to achieve was what we saw last week, where in the trees he did sort of block of different values before the trees were done. So he put the darks on the top, and then he put a lighter value on the side, and that's what I was trying to sort of play around with.
Okay.
And the color.
Right.
But I really don't know what I would do with it. I was just playing that. So I don't know where to go next.
Okay. Well, now when I'm looking at this, kind of how I read it is that the sunlight is coming in from the left toward the right.
Correct.
So it's really hitting, the vertical sides of these trees right in here.
Yes.
And then the back sides are falling off into shadow, right?
Correct. Yes.
Okay. So if that's the case, right, all of this is working pretty well until you get really right up in here and you started putting those very intense darks, all the way up here in the front.
Right.
And so unless you're getting like a lot of cast shadows across here or something, there's going to be more light in this area than what you got indicated. And this is watercolor, so
Yes.
yeah, you might try lifting a little bit of that back. If that doesn't work, the other thing is come back in with some maybe more yellow or orange, in this area, again, to bring up the light and the intensity in here.
I
And
was trying to keep the darkness there because the perspective where the ones in front would be darker than the ones in the back.
okay. Well,
thought you said that was what we were supposed to do, make the ones in the front darker. And the
Right.
one, as it fades away, it gets lighter.
Right.
no, it's,
That's what I was thinking.
yeah. Okay, it's not that simple. Okay. Everything going away doesn't necessarily get lighter. Okay. What happens is there's less contrast in things that are further away, right? So like in this case, right? He's got his hills and everything back there, and they sit back there very nicely, right? And the reason they sit back there very nicely is look at the darkest dark back here. It's not really all that dark, right? There's a slight color change, temperature change, but the values are pretty close, back in here, right? In here, the reason this area comes forward is because he has some very strong darks against some very strong lights. So again, you have more contrast as it comes forward. Does that make sense? So it's not,
Okay.
yeah. So it's like the areas that are closer to you are going to have the widest range of value and the widest range in temperature difference. All those 5 types of contrast are all going to occur, in whatever's closest to you, right? And
I
as,
don't quite get that. I don't quite understand that.
okay,
You say the closer things should not be that distinct, or what?
no, listen to what I'm saying. Okay, I said, the closer something comes to you, right, as it moves in the foreground, we're talking about landscapes here. The closer it gets to you, the more contrast it has. The 5 types of contrast are the color, right? So you might
Right.
find a wider range of color up here, reds, yellows, greens, oranges, blues, where back here, everything is more muted. It's closer to grays, or maybe it's all closer in blues or something like that. There's not that much variation in the background. There's more variation in the foreground. Okay, so that's just color. Value, okay? You're gonna have some of your darkest darks and your lightest lights in the area coming forward, okay? So a wider range of value. The range of value as you move backward is going to get closer together. So if you look at that on a number scale, right? If the range of value back here is, say, a number 3 value to a number 6 value, right? Up here in the foreground, that range is going to be from maybe a 0 to a 10. See, so this has a much wider range of value than this does back here.
Okay.
Does that make
But
sense?
should there also be even more detail, their definition, or just no?
No, it's not about the detail. Okay. Okay, let me continue though. All right. So that's 2 of the 5 types of contrast. All right. Then we have, intensity. See, the color in this area is more intense than back here, right? This is more muted.
Right.
This is more intense. Okay. All right.
Right.
Now, how about temperature? Okay. So there's a bigger variation in temperature here. You've got this nice kind of pinky, kind of orange color against this very cool green, and of course the blue, right? So there's a wider range of temperature up here. Back here, it's all kind of blues and greens and grays, right? So it's all generally kind of cooler, right? Right. And then edges.
Yeah.
Okay. The fifth and final type of contrast is if you look at how the paint was laid down here, everything is generally a little bit sharper, right? You know, all through
Okay.
here.
Mhm.
And then back here, everything is softer, right?
All right.
Ah. So you see he's got all 5 types of contrast, you know, or more of those 5 types of contrast in the foreground than he does in the background. It doesn't have to do with this being darker or lighter. It's what's the value range here? What's the value range here? See, it's much wider here. Okay.
Okay.
So you can't really make a general rule of thumb that everything in the distance is lighter or that everything in the distance is darker. You'll, you know, when you're out, you know, painting outside, sometimes you'll see, if you look off in the distance, the mountains will look dark, right?
Mm-hmm.
And they will be, you know, it'll be this kind of dark bluish color or something like that. The thing is it because the mountains are further away, they may be darker in value, but it all looks kind of bluish, all right? All the color is closer together. The value range overall is darker. There's not a lot of contrast there. You know, the color is probably less intense, you know, than, you know, what's closer to you. So again, you know, you can run into a lot of different situations out there, but it's a matter of the overall contrast. There's less contrast as things go away. There's more contrast as things come forward.
Okay.
Makes
Well,
sense?
what about then on the left side?
Say what?
What about the green on the left side? Should that have more?
Well, again, you know, the color here is much more intense and it's pretty close to you. In fact,
Right.
yeah,
Right.
in fact, this tree is probably closer to us than, say, this tree right here. Okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
And so again, you know, it's got sharper edges. It's generally darker in value, you know, but it's also got, you know, some light areas around it. Again, setting it off, you know, creating more contrast in that area. You know, generally, I mean, this is working pretty well. Now you could develop it more if you wanted to. You could put maybe a little more color, you know, maybe a little darker value in some areas in here. You know, while over on this side, because the sunlight is coming in this direction, again, you might want to warm and lighten some of this up, you know, not right up here in the front, but, you know, just kind of in this area, because that really has to kind of fall back into what we call the
Right.
middle ground, right? So it's like, how do we push this back and let this come forward, right? Even though it's not like way far away or a really big distance, you know, we still have to differentiate and we need to get this to move back just a little bit. Now, another way you might do it is you might just take some water, you know, on a mop or something like that, and just lay water over here and then let some of this color diffuse and some of the edges soften a little bit, and it might do the same thing for you.
Yeah, that's actually what I did to soften the back part of the trees there.
Right.
It was all pretty much one intensity, so and value. So I just wet it a little bit, and then with a paper towels, just sort of picked up some of the color.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I wouldn't pick up any of the color here. I would just kind of go over it once and let the water sit and just kind of soften and break up some of those edges just a little bit. Again, it's not going to change it radically. You know, it's just enough to soften this a little bit and let these be a little bit sharper, right?
Okay.
And push
Okay.
it forward, okay? The other thing I wanted to kind of mention about this is the water, okay? You know, you've got a lot of texture and contrast up in here, but you get pretty similar, you know, in this area.
Oh,
And
yeah, I was looking at that now, right?
And so you might take, again, maybe a smaller brush just with some water, do kind of the same thing.
Yeah.
Just try to
Right.
soften it. You know, if it begins to soften up, you know, you might go back and lift, you know, like some of these like really dark areas, you might just kind of lift them back a little bit. So
Yes.
they're not quite so dark in there. Okay?
You know, this is like we were talking about different papers last week.
Yeah.
This is a mixed media. I think it's like a vellum finish.
Okay.
So it's a little smoother and doesn't have the texture and tooth of a regular watercolor paper.
Right. Yeah, until you get it wet, and then it gets kind of grainy, doesn't it?
Yes.
Yeah.
But it's a little bit different, I find, putting color on this kind of paper rather than the regular watercolor paper.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it takes it a little bit differently. Yeah, there's definitely a difference in the surfaces. Now, did you have any trouble with this buckling or, you know, wrinkling or anything?
As it dried, it did a little bit, yes.
Okay, did, yeah. Yeah, some of those work better than others. You know, some mixed media papers, they're heavy enough where, you know, you can get them wet and keep them wet for a long time, and they don't,
Mhm.
you know, they don't buckle or wrinkle on you. Others, you know, don't last that long. So,
Yeah, this is a Strathmore. I forget what the weight of it was. Maybe 130.
all right. So,
Okay, thank you.
yeah. So you're going to work on this some more, right?
Yes, correct.
Okay. Yeah, I'd like to see, you know, what you do with it in the end. And
Okay.
how big is this?
This is 12 by 14.
Okay. Yeah. So not too big, but okay.
No.
All right. All right. Well, yeah, look forward to seeing it. Is June here? Miss June.
Yeah, I'm here.
There we go. Okay. So I want everybody to take a deep breath here. June put some more paint. Yeah. June put some more paint on her painting. And you know, I think it worked out pretty well. You know, she
That
really,
looks good.
yeah, she really didn't have
Yeah,
a lot
that
of background.
really does.
Yeah, it's got a nice feel to it. It's kind of, it's almost like this sort of like early 1900s kind of English countryside feel to it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's got nice light, and you know, the figure, we kind of get the idea that she's in a garden, you know, of some sort. You know, because you got some of the flowers and things in front of her closer to us, and then you've got the background back behind. And overall, you know, I think everything worked out on it pretty well. I would still, the only thing I would say about this, not in the background, but up here, you know, like in her hair area, like right in there. Yeah. I wouldn't change the color or the value of anything, but I would just get a little more paint in there. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It looks a little thin, kind of tentative. You know, now on the skin tones, you see you got a nice layer of paint in there, but then up in here, it begins to kind of break up and look, you know, kind of thin.
Okay.
You know, but yeah, and again, you know, the color and the value is fine. You know, it's just get a little more.
More paint.
Yeah. You know, I mean, you've got it kind of working back here, you know, even though these are darker values, you know, but in here, it just kind of looks like it's a spot that you missed putting paint on. Okay.
Okay.
All right. Over here,
Is that oil? Is that an oil?
June. Is this an oil?
Huh?
Is this oil?
Oil
or
paint,
acrylic?
yeah.
Okay.
Oil.
Yeah, oil paint. Okay. So yeah, you can definitely put some more paint on there. Okay.
Okay. Okay. Got it.
And then we have her flowers here. Okay. And again, you know, she's gone back in there. She's laid some more color down on it. Now, in looking at this, your background looks very kind of thin and kind of washy, right?
Uh-huh.
And that's okay. It can be, all right? But if you're going to do that, and you're going to have this kind of very loose and almost liquidy or washy looking, then when you get here, like to your flowers and things like that, then get a little more paint down on them and make sure to lay it down and really kind of put down some nice clean brush strokes. Okay.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah. You know, particularly like, for example, you know, I don't know where you want to put your focal point at this point. But you know, if I were going to treat this area right here as my focal point, then this flower right in here, you know, I would lay some, you know, fairly substantial amount of paint, particularly along the front, the part that's closest to me, and follow the shape and the form to kind of suggest that there are petals and shapes in there. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah. Same thing with the yellow flower and the red one is
Yes.
fine. You know, you seem to have plenty of paint down on this one. It's this one right here and this one that look kind of, and you know, I'm almost out of yellow paint. I'm not gonna, you know, put more on there. Okay. So
Okay.
so don't do that. You know, go ahead and if that's your focal point, then go ahead and, you know, layer some nice paint down there, because that's where people's eye are going to go to anyway, right? And so you really want it's the hard
Okay.
part is you got to lay it down there, and it's like you got to make it look not overworked, but at the same
Mhm.
time, you know, get enough down there that it's a substantial amount of paint, and you know the color you know carries really nicely. Okay.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, and you might, you know, you might pick something up out of this video that we're going to watch here. And this is not real long, but I think it will be helpful. Let me close this. That way I can find things. Okay, well, we're up to 15 people. Yay! Okay. So yeah, let's take a look at this. Yeah, it's this piece right here. Okay. And you know, I think you can learn a lot from this. Now, a lot of these are like 19th century paintings, but and this is Phil Stark is the guy's name, but he brings out some good points about these. And again, this is about painting with what they call broken or open paint passages. Okay.
We talk about finish in a painting. Too often we start to think in terms of detail, and the definition of detail being small little value changes, small dark and lights, and we break up a big area into smaller little darks and lights. And the problem with that is we can overdo it real easily and it becomes too busy, and we lose that overall sense of value relationships between the large areas, and we lose the sense of light. Because the detail takes over. So I think it's more important to think in terms of broken color, where we have the same value in a large area and very little value change, but a lot of broken color. And that gives it more of a sense of finish with just a little bit of value change. And we tend to think the other way. And I think a lot of that comes from photographs, because a camera sees everything equally. It'll see just as much detail, little dark and lights in the right corner as it does around the center of interest. So everything becomes sharp, focused, a lot of small details, and that we just lose that overall sense of light. We tend to think of the camera as reality, so if we render what the camera sees, then the painting will work. And it just doesn't work that way. And I have a few paintings here that show that real well. This painting is by John Follansbee, early 20th century landscape painter from Pennsylvania. And you can see in the front here, down in the lower right-hand corner, with all the greens and the foliage and the yellow and orange trees, there is small dark and light detail. You know, a lot of value changes within this area. Same thing in the light area, kind of in the middle down below. And this is up front. The more detail you have up front, the more it pulls it forward. You don't want to overdo it, but he does have the detail in here. But notice the
Okay, before he goes on, this is the exact discussion we just had about John's watercolor, right? Yeah. So again, you know, he's got more contrast here. Now this is in oil, not in watercolor. But look at the range of color, you know, in this area. You know, there's not just one green. There's about 4 or 5 different types of green in there. There's pinks, there's oranges and yellows and all kinds of things. But regardless of that, when you look at it, if you squint your eye down, you see how the value pulls together into a big shape there. And you see the light area here is distinct from this area, which is distinct from the tree, right? And so, you know, those blocks of value hold together very nicely there, even though there's a lot of different colors and things in there. It's that the values are very close together and very distinct from, you know, say the water or, you know, the tree line on the other side or the sky. And see, again, they each have their own distinct range of value, and that helps it read as, you know, this is part of the water, or this is part of the land, or part of the foliage from the trees, okay? And so this artist has taken the time to really kind of think about this and separate them out, you know, very distinctly from each other and get them to work.
plane and the value and color of the sky, the background trees, and the water, they're all very simple values. One value for the sky, but 3 or 4 different colors. He's got bluish green, he's got some yellow, some orange, some pink. And all those colors, it's a very subtle color change because they're all the same value, but it gives it a sense of finish without detail. Same thing with the trees back in here. They're also a blue-green. There's blue violet in there, some red violet, some pink. Again, all somewhat very close to the same value. So it's a very subtle color change and little or no value change. Same thing with the water. He's got a lot of the warm pink or a cool orange, bluish green, blue violet in the water. And they're all so close in value, it doesn't look busy. Here it gets busy, and he does that on purpose to pull it forward. Same thing with the trees, although a lot of the trees, there isn't a lot of value change. There's some. It's mostly color change. Same value, different color. This area right in here, mostly the same value and several different colors. And it really has a nice effect. The colors vibrate when they're next to each other, especially warm and cool colors, and gives the painting a lot more interest. But what makes this painting work, again, is the simplicity of the larger shapes, especially in the background and in the water, in the subtle broken color. It gives it a sense of finish. I have a Edgar Payne here. Same thing here, a lot of flat areas, flat dark. For the trees, a little bit of broken color in the green, same value, but several different greens, a little bit of subtle value change. But you can really see it in the mountains back in here in the light area. It's got 2 or 3 different values, but several color changes in here. And both the value and the color changes are very subtle. They're not big jumps in value, not real dramatic. The dramatic value change is in the big shapes, between the sky and the darks in the mountains, between the light and dark in the mountains. But the big shapes are broken up with subtle color change. In the shadows here, you can see it goes from the blue violet down to kind of the reddish violet and some orange, caused mainly, I guess, from the sunlight hitting the ground here and bouncing back into it, reflected light. But nice subtle color change in there. Subtle color change in the light area in this rock down here in the lower left corner. It's an orange rock, but there's greens, there's yellow greens, some violets. So a lot of color in there, but it has still an overall sense of a real light, warm orange color. And very little detail anywhere. Not a lot of small, little dark and light accents. And that makes you focus on the bigger shapes, and then the broken color gives it more refined, more finished look. I have 3 paintings here by Robert Bonneau, American Impressionist, late 19th century, I think, maybe early 20th. But here also, what stands out is the large shapes, the large shape of the sky, large shapes of the 3 rooftops, the grass, the flowers, the walls on the buildings. Not much small, dark, and light value changes, except where you get into the bushes here. And a little bit in windows and some detail, but most of it holds together because it keeps everything simple. But then he breaks up those large areas with color change. A little bit of value change on this roof right here, darker and gradually getting lighter. But it's the subtle color change that makes it look more finished or more refined. Not the little, it's not drawing every little dark and light detail he sees on the roof. Value changes under every shingle. It gives a suggestion of texture and finish with the color change. Same value, but several different colors. Same thing with the roofs up here, from oranges, red violets, even a little bit of green. And in here too, blue violet, some great orange. So a lot of color change, one value. Down in here, a little bit of value change in these greens. There's got 3 or 4 different greens, but real close in value. The only detail is mostly in here, maybe in the windows, but everything else is kept very simple. Another one here for a sunny day, but you can see the broken color underneath the bridge. One overall value, pretty much except where the reflected light gets a lot lighter. But a lot of broken color in there. And when those, especially the warm and cool colors are next to each other, you get a lot of vibration. Even in the white, and this doesn't show up in the photograph very well, but the white building has several colors in it, same value. And with white, there's a lot of color in white on a flat wall and someone's white shirt and white snow. But it's so white, you have to have so much white in your mixture that just a little bit of color gives it a subtle color change, and you don't notice it as much because most of these mixtures are 90–95% white. And the white really desaturates and knocks down the color, so it's real subtle. You can see it in the shrubbery here. It's an overall kind of an olive green, but there's a lot of orange, yellow green, green, a lot of variety in that one value of green. Same thing with the water down here. broken red violets, oranges within that blue water. So you can see think through a lot of detail just by adding subtle color change. This is another Robert Bonneau. Very atmospheric, very early in the morning, looks to me, but a lot of moisture or mist in the air. So edges very soft everywhere, and not a lot of darks and lights except in the trees and the branches in the lower part. But the upper part is just a variety of color, going from reds, red violet, blue green, blue violet, a lot of color variation in there. But again, real close to the same color. Sky also is kind of a bluish green with a lot of warm reds, oranges in here, red violets. So when we think of finish in a color, I think it's better to think in larger shapes in terms of same value, different colors, and restrict your small value changes to just around the focal
point. Okay. Does that make any sense to you guys?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yes.
So, what he was talking about there is, okay, you may have like an area like the sky. And, you know,
Today we're going to be talking about using thick and thin paints.
Oh, wait a minute. Here.
Specifically thicker paints.
Okay. Thank you, but yeah, you got to go away now. Okay. So, you know, what he specifically talking about there was how do you get a finished look to the paint surface? And when I'm teaching a class, in either acrylics or in oils, pretty much so the first thing, I'll have you address is the overall composition and the value structure of the painting. And the way I get you to do that is I get you to find the big shapes, right? And assign them a color and a value, and then put a big block in there. So, your sky might be this light blue, right? But then to finish, as you get closer to the finish of the painting, you'll go back in and you'll work back into those blocks of color, and you'll add layers of color. And you're not trying to paint out everything that you put there, but it's like you'll find, 3 or 4 other colors within that same range. Say the sky, for example, you may have several different blues, a pink, an orange, maybe a purple, and they're all a very similar value, but you've got all those colors, in that sky area. And when you step back, optically, it has an effect of the color, and it gives the painting kind of a more vibrant feel because the colors are interacting with each other. And it makes the painting more alive than if you just lay like a flat color in there and that's it. You don't go back in and modify it or enhance it in any way. And you can find in doing, in working back into those areas, you can suggest that there's more detail there than you've actually put in it. See? So it looks like there's more there than if you just left it as a flat shape. So, that's something that, as you're painting, I want you to kind of experiment with, start working, in those, once you get your big shapes and masses and things, try pushing more color in there, but be conscious of not just putting color in there, but color at a particular value. Make sure that it still stays within that same value range, and that it doesn't pop out, like making something look like it's either lighter or darker. Okay, does that make any sense to you guys? Anybody?
Kinda.
Anybody agree? Okay.
Can I, how can I get on that site? Because I was trying to Google it so I could hear it again, watch it again, and look at the pictures again. Is that YouTube?
Yeah, it's YouTube. Yeah. Yeah, and just look up the term broken color.
Oh, okay. I put color breaking.
It's broken color. And,
Okay.
and this particular person, his name is Phil Stark, Starke. Okay. You know, for that video. But there's a lot of videos on creating what we call open paint passages or broken paint passages. And, you know, an example of that, and not that I'm trying to promote any of you painting like an impressionist or a pointillist, but, you know, it's the same idea. You know, that's what the impressionists basically did, is they laid one color next to another and they adjusted the value ranges, but it created this illusion of light and vibrance in the color that you don't get by just, you know, slapping a green down there. Okay. So you can get a very different effect with that. Okay. How are we doing on time? So anybody got any questions? Anything we need to talk about?
I sent an artist that I since I didn't turn in any artwork, Arnez Stanley. He drew with ink.
Mm-hmm.
He draws with the ink pen.
Okay.
Paints with pens.
Okay.
Yeah.
When did you send that to me?
I sent that. This today broke for lunch.
Oh, okay.
Anyway, he's an interesting artist.
Mm-hmm.
Very beautiful work. Arnez Stanley.
Okay.
What is the name again?
Arnez.
Arnze Stanley.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I just thought you told us to send you some work if we saw unusual work.
Yeah. If you see something that you like in particular, or stands out to you, then yeah, definitely.
Yeah, he paints with pens, but they look like photographs, and it's amazing. It takes him weeks to do it, but it looked like photographs.
Okay.
I think you like it.
Yeah, I'll take a look for him and you know, see what he does. Okay.
Okay.
Can you spell that first name again, please?
ARN.
Easy.
Oh, ARINZE.
Oh, okay. ARIN.
NZE.
Thank you.
Stanley.
ARINEZ. Stanley.
Yeah, his history is interesting too.
Mm-hmm.
He's an American.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. It says here hyper-realistic pencil drawing. Okay. Yeah. All right. Yeah. I'll take a look at him.
This is Bob. I sent you maybe a week or so ago a guy by the name of Jono Dry. A little link. I don't know if you ever got it or not. But anyway, he's very interesting. He's a carbon artist, untrained. He does it. I think he's South African, and but it's really interesting. He does some beautiful work. That he works very large. Also,
what's his first name?
Jono. Jono.
Okay. Can you
DRY?
Yeah. Just send me an email with his name in it. Okay.
Okay.
And I'll look him up.
How do you spell it?
Jono.
What's
Jono.
the name?
What else of her?
Dry. DRY.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. All right, I'll put him on the list to look up too then. All right. Okay. Well, guess what? I guess we will be back here on Wednesday, right? We'll be talking about painting. So,
Charles,
yeah.
Charles,
Uh-huh.
did you ever send me that name of the large size oil painting for student painters? You were going to tell me, I was telling you about the little set I had was so small, and you said
Uh-huh.
there was a student painter. You said your people use in your classroom.
Yeah, and that was the Winton, W-I-N-T-O-N. Oil.
Okay, just
Yeah.
look for students. You were also going to tell me what 4 or 8 pinks that I really need to get.
Yeah, I thought I had sent you that.
You may have. Let me look at my email again. I didn't see it recently.
Okay. Yeah, because I was pretty sure that I'd sent that out. Because that was what, about a week?
It was about a week or so ago.
Yeah, about a week or maybe a little longer.
More. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I'll look through my stuff again and see. I may have overlooked it.
Okay. Yeah, because I kind of wrote out. In fact, I think since I was sending it out, I think I sent it to everybody. I sent, basically the palette from Benson, and all the colors that we had on the palette.
I'll look again.
Okay. All right.
Charles?
Yeah.
I got that. I got
You got it?
Thank you very much. Yeah, I was really interested. Thanks.
Okay.
Oh.
Yeah.
In that case, I can look.
It's
One more question.
Mm-hmm.
The method you showed us, is it broken color?
Yeah, it's okay. Basically, you refer to it as an either open or broken paint passage.
Okay,
Okay.
thank you.
And Phil basically refers to it as broken color. Okay. They all mean the same thing. Now, there's different ways of getting there. Some people actually take, several brushes and they'll, mix the colors specifically to match the values, and they'll go back and work in an area, with the different brushes loaded with a different color. Some people will put down a block of color, let that set up and dry, and then do what you call scumbling, right? Where you, work like light layers of color, back into another color, to build up the richness of the color and the surface, right? So yeah, there's different ways of getting there, and
his name, yeah.
Pardon?
I'm sorry. His name is Phil.
Well, this guy that we were watching the video from is Phil Stark.
Thank you.
Yeah, is his name. And you can find several of his videos and stuff on YouTube. Okay?
Yes. Thank you. That's great.
All right. Okay. Anybody else? All right.
Yeah.
So like I was saying, we'll be back here on Wednesday. I got a couple of emails on Friday. Evidently, I guess Ladisa is trying to organize an opportunity for people to put work in the public library system. Okay. So I think, they're looking for people to physically submit work to that. I'll try to find out more about it and find out, where and when you can submit work for that. But it's, I think it's mainly at the main library downtown, which they just renovated and they're opening back up again. So, so there might be an opportunity for you to hang a couple of your paintings down there. Okay. So I'll keep you up to date on that. Okay.
Are we having class on Friday?
As far as I know.
That's a Good Friday.
Is it Good Friday? Well, yeah, I guess my question is whether we're going to have class on Monday. Yeah, and I need to find out about that because this coming weekend is Easter, is that correct?
Right. Mhm.
Yes.
Okay. All right. Yeah. Let me find out about that. Yeah, I don't know what the county's going to do about that and whether they're going to cancel classes on either Friday or Monday or what they're going to do. But
We got a new schedule from Roderick today, and it said there were some cancellations, but I haven't really looked at the schedule yet.
right. Yeah. I don't know how they're going to treat that holiday. So yeah, that's one of the things you miss, when you're working at home. They haven't sent out a new calendar, with all the holidays and things on it. So it's hard to plan. But I will look into that and I'll let you know on Wednesday. Okay.
Good deal.
All right. Well, until then, all right, everybody have a good week.
Bye-bye. Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Thank you very much, Charles.
All right.
Thank you. Goodbye.
Thank you very much.
Take care.